Those of us who don't have a lot of time to cook should be familiar with the notion of savor recipes. One such recipe is dal. Dal can be cooked in 15 minutes. For a handful of dollars, you can feed 10 people. It goes well with vegetables, fruit, and meat. It's filled with oodles of nutrition because it's a legume. And it's reusable. In fact, the longer you store it, the better it tastes. You don't need a lot of special equipment to cook dal. You need a pan with a spoon, and if you're going to eat it with rice, you need a little pot there to cook the rice. The ingredients are also very straightforward. Of course, you need the lentils. Here are two types of lentils, green lentils, and then these red lentils. You'll notice that the red lentils are much finer than the green lentils and will cook faster. The foundation vegetables of dal are ginger, garlic, and onions. These are yellow onions. Okay, we've done our food prep now, and we're about ready to start cooking. I just wanted to point out that if you're going to have your dal with rice, it's important for you to get the rice going while you're doing the food prep because the dal can actually cook up pretty fast. I'm using 2 pounds of the red dal, or red lentil, I'm sorry. This is a pretty fine lentil and will cook very fast. I chose this because of the color for tonight's video. And then actually associated with that are large amounts of ginger, onion, and garlic. Now I chose 2-pound bag plus that much of these vegetables because I'm gonna cook enough food for not just tonight's meal, but also to have lentils and dal through the rest of the week in different forms. Regarding the spices, here I've also used a rather large amount of spices because I'm cooking a double-sized meal. There are a couple of spices that you want to be a little careful with as you're experimenting with flavors. The ground cardamom and the cardamom seed are somewhat of an acquired taste. You should have some in your dal, but you got to be careful about how much you use when you're first starting out. Of course, the heat from the cayenne pepper and from the paprika, that's up to you. And then the salt, which will go later on into the meal when you're cooking, it doesn't go in up front, but later on is up to you. The cumin seed and turmeric are pretty safe bets. I'm using a fair amount of that here in this meal tonight. So now we're gonna cook in rapid sequence here, and I'm just gonna show you snippets of the important parts. We've heated up our pan here on a nice hot flame, and we're gonna put in our spices. I like to let the spices sit on the bottom of this dry, hot pan and singe a little bit. It actually brings out the flavors, and this is actually a really wonderful odor that's coming out of the pan right now. They're just starting to smoke right now. That's a sign that I should move on to the next step. The garlic and ginger have been placed in there, and now I'm putting in the onions. And then on top of that goes the olive oil, which is going to allow me to fry up these foundation vegetables. Cook the onions and ginger and garlic until the onions are starting to turn translucent. Don't worry about all the spices caked on the bottom. Those are spices that are going through some fascinating chemistry. You can scrape it off and keep it in there. Once the onions are translucent, go ahead and put in your red dal. And then add water to your red lentils and that vegetable base. You're going to add enough water to cover up the lentils just a little bit after they've been evened out. And you're going to let it simmer. And you're going to test it every few minutes until the lentils are nice and tender. Here I've mixed in the dal. You can see the foundation vegetables, they're mixed in with them, and I'm starting to see a simmer with the water just arriving at the top of my red lentils. Once I start to get a simmer, I'm going to turn down the heat a little bit, and I'm going to cover it up. As the water is simmered off or absorbed by the lentils, keep on adding water to try and keep the surface a little bit wet. As the lentils get tender, add salt to taste. Most people like their dal a little pasty, meaning the lentil has broken down. But before it breaks down completely, it makes sense at this point, if you're making a huge batch, to take some out because some of the other dishes you're going to make later on this week are better with intact lentils that are simply tender as opposed to a pure paste. And then you just cook down this pot of lentils to the consistency that you're interested in, which classically is a little bit pasty, tiny bit chunky on top of your rice.